All right, it is the evening weather briefing from Monday, the 22nd of September, and this is the evening edition. I am Josh Brown. I hope that you all had a great weekend, and also hope that you had a fantastic Monday. And as we're closing out our Monday, we do expect some unsettled weather to be in the forecast as we head into the rest of our work week, which will have more details about that in just a little bit later. But let's go ahead and get to the radar and show you what's going on across Central Florida. First off, this evening, before we get to the tropics, because it looks a little busy out there across the Atlantic. And as you can see, most of our area is dry, but there is a little shower up here in Marion County to close out our Monday. And this is affecting places like Santos, Montague, if I said that right, Maricamp, and Huntington. And again, it's just a quick shower, so nothing too major, anything widespread to be concerned about. But if I go ahead and play the loop, it seems that the shower is moving pretty much from a, we'll say, northeasterly to a southwesterly direction at about, we'll say, 40 to 45 miles per hour. So that's where it might be going here. And if this is right, it looks like the shower could move into, we'll say, around 475, which is basically right to the southeast of the community of Shady. And if this holds together, this may cross into Interstate 75. We'll say near the Danks Corner exit. We'll say within the next, we'll say, about 5 or 10 minutes or so. But other than that, the rest of the county is looking dry out there this evening to close out our Monday. And like I said before, the rest of our area is looking quiet. But there has been a lot of active weather down in South Florida, pretty much earlier. Well, not earlier, but since this afternoon is what I should say. And most of that activity is going to stay farther south for the rest of tonight. So it seems any showers or storms that are out there left should be winding down by midnight. But all that moisture from the Gulf and from the Caribbean will start to pull up from the south to north, and that will allow it to bring yet the increase in rain chances as we head into the rest of our work week. Which again, I'll have more details on that in just a little bit. But other than that, if you have plans outside this evening, get out and enjoy as you can. May still feel a little muggy out there, but other than that, things are looking good for our market. But let's talk tropics out there tonight, because again, just like I said before, it's getting a little busy out there uh, after a quiet last few weeks, especially around the middle of peak season, which is not that usual for this time of year. But the tropics are starting to slowly wake up again. So let me go ahead and switch over to the satellite and turn on the clean version of it. And just understand we have only one named storm and two waves that we're closely monitoring out there here at this time. So let's first talk about Gabriel. And as you can see here, it is now a major Category 4 hurricane. As you can see here uh, with the latest picture here, and you can see that the eye wall of the storm is becoming a bit tighter. As you can see also on the latest satellite view. And if I can go ahead and play the loop here, it looks like it's moving basically slowly from south-southwest to the north-northeast at about, we'll say, 12 miles per hour. So it's moving pretty quickly, as you can see, with the latest info from the National Hurricane Center, with winds, as you can see, picking up as high as 140 miles per hour with about a 948 millibar pressure low. But thankfully, though, this is pulling away from us, not just from here in Florida, but also all from the east coast of the United States, which will not be making a big impact with that system, which is a good thing. And then it looks like, according to the latest track here from the National Hurricane Center, it appears that it will start to downgrade to a Cat 3, we'll say by Wednesday, or I'm sorry, tomorrow rather, at about 2 o'clock. And then by Wednesday, it should be able to downgrade to a Cat 2. And then by late week, down back to a Cat 1 as it enters the cooler waters of the North Atlantic, which will help weaken the system. And then yet back into a tropical storm by around, we'll say, about Saturday or so. And then, as you can see here, we're watching other two waves falling behind somewhat from Gabriel. This one over here is producing disorganized areas of showers and thunderstorms associated with a tropical wave located about midway between the Lesser Antilles and the Cabo Verde Islands. And to show some signs of organization, and conditions are forecast to become more favorable for development by tomorrow, and a depression is likely to form on Wednesday or Thursday while the system moves west-northwest to northwest across the central Atlantic. So the National Hurricane Center has given about an 80% chance of formation for about the next 5 to 7 days. And it's likely this could become a next named storm, and that could be well named as Humberto. Yeah, that's the next name on the list there. So that's something we'll be watching. And then next to it is another tropical wave that is out there just near, we'll say, near the coast of San Juan, Puerto Rico. And according to the latest text from the Hurricane Center, it says that a tropical wave is located about 250 miles east of the Leeward Islands and is producing disorganized areas again of showers and storms. And conditions do appear marginally conducive for some development over the next few days as the wave moves quickly westward to west-northwest at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. By the latter part of this week, the system is expected to slow down and turn northwestward, and still a tropical depression could form late this week when the system is over the southwest Atlantic or near the Bahamas region. But regardless of any development, gusty winds and heavy rainfall are expected to affect the portions of the Leeward Islands through, especially beginning late tonight and heading into the day on Tuesday, and then near Puerto Rico late tomorrow night and on into the day on Wednesday. But with an approaching cold front that's going to move in from the west to east here later this week, that should continue to steer the systems away from us here in Florida and along the east coast off of the east coast rather of the United States. So that's at least some positive news we could use. But if you live along the east coast, I would just continue to monitor this just in case. But we're hoping that the front pushes far more eastward, and then the systems just ahead of it will steer more to the north and northeast. So that's what we want. But with this system over here, the tropical wave that's near the coast of San Juan, that could still increase the rain chances over here in central Florida later this week. So just understand that. But I think the worst of it is going to stay away from here. But elsewhere across the Atlantic, over towards the coast or off of the west coast of Africa, things are looking quiet out there with no formations expected within the next 5 to 7 days. And the same goes for the Central Caribbean and for the Gulf Coast regions. Like I've said before, this year's hurricane season has not been quite as crazy than it has been last year. And like I said before, we're hoping that it stays that way as we get through the rest of our hurricane season. And again, the peak of it usually winds down by mid-October, but the official ending is not until November 30th. So let's hope for the best. So let's go ahead and turn off the tropical icons and the satellite and switch back to the local radar site, and we'll zoom back in closer to Central Florida. And like I said before, things are looking quiet out there to close out our Monday. Again, with the exception for Marion County here, where there's a quick shower, but again, that should be dissipating here, we'll say, pretty shortly. But again, the soaking rain is going to stay again mostly just to the south of Central Florida, which will be happening for a little bit longer. But like I've said before, that should be fading out by midnight or so. And it looks like there have been some reports of flooding down in South Florida, pretty much since yesterday, and maybe some today, mostly from yesterday. And that's around the Fort Lauderdale and the Miami areas. But we hadn't seen a whole lot of rain here for Central Florida over the last few days, including today. But like I said, that's going to change as we get into the next coming days. Here we are in late September, which, again, I'll explain more about that here in just a few moments. So here's a look at the temperatures this evening, and as you can see, it's looking pretty warm out there. We have numbers sitting in the 70s and into the low, and for some of you in the mid 80s, especially if you live in Leesburg and points west you go towards the coast of Spring Hill in Tampa, and that stretches up here towards the western and in the southwestern corner of Alabama and the southern portion of Mississippi. And you have temperatures right now sitting in the mid to upper 70s for most of Georgia, and east you go towards the coastline of South Carolina. So as we switch over to the HURR model, which does take you through the next 18 hours. So before we get to that, if you're just coming on into this live broadcast, Again, I don't mind if you could share this with your friends, families, followers, etc. And you know my motto, and that is sharing is caring. And before we also get to the rest of our update, I'm going to go ahead and share this feed to a few other Facebook group pages. So just give me just a few more minutes, and we'll move on. Right. Sorry about that again, everyone. So here's a look at the her model as we head into the next 18 hours temperature-wise. And it looks like as we head into daybreak on Tuesday and even the overnight too, we're expecting yet another warm start with low temperatures in the low to mid 70s across central Florida. A little cool to start off north, where you have temperatures that could begin in the upper 60s for places like Gainesville, up around as far as Atlanta, and perhaps even east you go towards the southwestern portion of South Carolina. And then by lunchtime, we'll see temperatures quickly heating up close to average in the middle to upper 80s to some of you, hitting around or close to 90, especially if you live in and around the Panhandle side of Florida, and perhaps the same thing for the Montgomery area of southern Alabama and surrounding locations. And if we could switch over to the NAM model, which just take you through the next couple of days. And yet, we could expect maybe just a few showers during the afternoon, with the rain chances still staying low at about 30%. But it looks like it may become a little bit more scattered here by 11 o'clock tomorrow night for between, let's say, from Lake County up around to southeastern Marion. So could be a little bit of a rough night ahead, is what I'm seeing here. And then any showers or storms that are out there left should be winding down around after midnight, late tomorrow night. And then things should be looking good, not just for the overnight, but heading into daybreak on Wednesday. we should be able to see plenty of sunshine to start off the day there. And then by the afternoon on Wednesday shows not a whole lot of rain, especially between 3 and 4 is what it shows on the latest NAM trend. But it looks like the storms should still, or should start rather, to pick up a little bit as we head towards 8 o'clock Wednesday night, especially for our western communities of central Florida, from Marion County down south into parts of Sumter. And that goes right down towards as far as Sarasota and the Fort Myers and the Marco Island areas, with the rain chances mostly hovering at around 50% is what I'm seeing here also. So how much rain can we expect with these scattered storms as we head into the next couple of days? It shows mostly at about 1 to 2 inches, especially if you go from Lake County and west into Marion, Sumter, and off towards the coastline. We'll say between Spring Hill towards Sarasota and the Fort Myers communities, and those in the area shaded in red. And that's the same thing up around Interstate 10 near Lake City, which is right about here. This is just to the west of Jacksonville, by the way. So let's talk temperatures heading into the next few days, too. So fast forwarding into the afternoon on Tuesday, we're expecting temperatures yet to remain average in the 80s and low 90s, so not too bad. And again, that's where temperatures normally be for this time of year. Here we are in September. And you also have temperatures also hovering in the 80s, so low 90s for highs in the Mississippi Valley region, too, just like for here by 3 o'clock. And then we'll see by 8 o'clock tomorrow night, temperatures still warm, but starting to drop a little bit in the upper 70s and into the low to perhaps some of you in the mid 80s, not just for here, but also for the valley. And then overnight, late Tuesday on into early Wednesday shows another warm start to the day, yet again with potential lows beginning in the mid to upper 70s across central Florida and perhaps back in the lower 80s for Brevard County down south into Miami, with lows in the low to mid 70s up north in the valley. So a little bit cooler up there than it is here, but still on the mild side. And then by 3 p.m. Wednesday, I expect temperatures yet to heat things up a little bit. Still mostly average in the upper 80s and into the lower 90s. Wouldn't be surprised if we do see some mid 90s for highs on Wednesday. And then you have numbers staying a little bit on the cool side, but mild in the 80s over towards the Mississippi Valley region. Could be a few low. There could be a few low 90s for high temperatures also on Wednesday for areas like Montgomery to down over here in southwestern Georgia. But other than that, the rest of the valley will see just in the low to mid 80s, which isn't too bad. And then as we make our way into 2 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, yet temperatures looks to stay pretty warm and soupy, where you have yet another round of upper 70s and into the lower 80s. But if you look up here just to the north and west of here, over here into central Mississippi and western Alabama, that could be at an approaching cold front, and that will start to bring a change to temperatures across parts of the southeast heading into late week, which I'll have more details on that in just a moment or so as we switch over to the GFS, which is what I'm going to do right now. And just looking at the low temperatures here for the first half of Thursday shows, well, it seems the front may not be arriving just yet, but it will be then. Probably between, we'll say, Thursday afternoon and Friday, which we'll see that in just a second, too. But for the most part, we'll see lows in the 70s, mid 70s, that is, across central Florida to start off on Thursday, with perhaps a very warm start down south, where there could be some lower 80s between Jupiter down around the Miami and the Keys areas. But yet the rain chances are still on the rise, as the covers will start to go up as high as 60% as we head into your Thursday. So umbrellas will probably be needed, especially if you're going to be out and about later in the afternoon or evening, such as heading to the beach or heading to the attractions. But there's a system, though, they'll start to bring some increasing rain chances at about 70 to 80% for Mississippi and Alabama, and yet that is ahead of an approaching front. They'll start to move in from northwest to southeast as we head into the late week time frame. And check out these high temperatures here by Thursday. We're talking yet warming up pretty quickly back to above average, where it shows numbers ranging anywhere from the middle to upper 90s, especially if you go just to the north of the metro. And that includes areas like Gainesville to Jacksonville, DeLand, Flagler County, up around St. Johns County, and stretching up into parts of Georgia and South Carolina. But with the system again moving in towards Alabama and points west, that's going to start to bring temperatures from the 90s dropping to the 70s and lower 80s. And again, this is ahead of a front moving in as we get into that time frame. And then as we check out the feels like temperatures on Thursday, and it shows mostly just hovering close to average in the upper 90s, and for some of you in the low triple digits, which includes areas like Jacksonville down towards St. Augustine and the Putnam County areas. So what about Friday, the 26th? It shows yet more rain on the horizon for central Florida, as we'll keep the coverage at around 60%, and that goes for the same thing up into the Mississippi Valley as the system moves a little eastward into Alabama on into yet Georgia and South Carolina. And it looks like the same front will start to again push off towards the east, and with that, that's going to start to drop temperatures in the low to mid 80s across the valley itself heading into late week, with perhaps ahead of it temperatures still staying pretty warm and average in the upper 80s and into the lower 90s, as you can see here on the latest GFS trend. And with the system moving in, that's going to start to drop temperatures in the mid 70s for the Big Bend part of the state up into central and southern Georgia. But I do want to look at the low temperatures here for the first half of Friday, and it shows starting off mostly in the low to mid 60s for Alabama and westward as the front moves in, yet from the west to east. But way ahead of that, we'll see lows again starting off on the warm side, so no changes there where we could see yet another round of low to mid 70s. And then you got another very warm start down here in southern Florida, where temperatures may begin in the lower 80s from near Jupiter down towards Miami itself. But checking out the lows for the first half of Saturday, and yet as the front passes through the valley, it appears we'll start off with a nice cooling one with some 60s up around Birmingham, Jackson, Montgomery, and Atlanta. But if you go towards the eastern side of Alabama, where you see these little I guess grayish colors. There could be some upper 50s to start off with heading into the first half of Saturday. So it's a little nice start there. And it looks like we could see some upper 60s and low 70s up here for the Panhandle to start off also the day on Saturday, but not so much for Central Florida as there's no changes for lows as it remains in the mid 70s, at least for now. But yet we do expect some more scattered storms on the way heading into the day on Saturday, with the chances starting to drop a little bit, we'll say at about 50%. Before the system, clears out and pushes off towards the Atlantic, which you may see that here in just a moment or so. And yet, looking at temperatures, and it shows not much change as it stays average in the 80s to low 90s for now, with temperatures feeling a little bit more like fall up here towards Alabama and parts of Georgia and Mississippi, where it shows anywhere from the low to mid 80s, as you can see. And yet, checking out the lows for the morning of Sunday, September 28th, shows yet another cool start up north, where there could be some upper 50s and low 60s for Alabama to Mississippi and for the western side of Georgia. And that could stretch a little south into the northwest side of Florida, such as Pensacola, Tallahassee, Panama City, and Destin, where they're expecting some 60s to begin with then. But yet, for us in Central Florida, still no changes as temperatures starts off as usual, hovering in the low to mid 70s. And we expect yet another day of some scattered late day showers and storms, with the better chances that is, mostly hovering from Metro Orlando and south towards the Keys region at about, we'll say about 50% or so. But it appears the northwest side of the state and the Mississippi Valley will turn out to be drying out as that system in the front pushes yet farther off towards the east near the coastline. And checking out those temperatures, and it looks like there may be a little bit of above average trend for the northwest side of the state, where there could be some mid 90s for areas like Panama City, Tallahassee, and the Gainesville communities, and that goes up a little bit north into southern Georgia. But for here, still no changes to temperatures, that it continues to stay average yet between the upper 80s and low 90s. And it appears that numbers will start to jump up a little bit for Alabama and west, where they're could be expecting yet mid to upper 80s for anywhere from Jackson to Birmingham, Montgomery, and down around the Biloxi area. And that goes also a little west you go into New Orleans and surrounding areas of eastern and northeastern Louisiana. But looks like the moisture may start to increase again as we head into Monday of next week, September 29th, as the chances of rain will go back up around 60%. And with that, that should allow to drop our temperatures a little bit, especially for the east side of the state, anywhere from the mid to upper 80s from Jacksonville down south into Miami, with numbers still staying average in the 80s and low 90s, especially from near Interstate 75 from Gainesville down into Marco Island. And then looks like temperatures up around Alabama and Mississippi will start to jump up back into the upper 80s to low 90s as well heading into Monday with a nice cooling trend up here for Georgia and South Carolina, where numbers could trend or could range rather from the 70s and into the lower 80s, especially with all that moisture, moving in from the north or from the south to north rather, which could bring some scattered storms for central and southern Georgia too. All right, this is a week from tomorrow, Tuesday, September 30th, and to close out the month, we expect yet another round of some elevated storm chances here for the state, keeping the coverage at around 50%, and that could extend up into the southern part of Alabama and southern Georgia. And for now, we're going to keep temperatures yet still running average, anywhere from the upper 80s and low 90s. Again, not too bad, but it's still going to feel more like summer, so just understand that. So nothing sweltering than it has been in the early summer months, and hopefully that's the last of it, and hopefully we don't see any more before we get into which you call it our later cooling season, climate-wise here in the Sunshine State. And yet more wet weather continues as we head into Wednesday, the first day of October, and we're going to keep the chances for showers and thunderstorms for the moment at around 50 to a 60% coverage as the system starts to move in from north to south. But check this out. It looks like another front may start to move in, and that could start to bring a nice cool fall-like trend to kick off October, and it shows numbers dropping anywhere from the low 90s, upper 80s to the 70s and lower 80s for most of the Mississippi Valley, basically from between near Jackson off towards the east you go towards Charleston. And that could also start to knock down temperatures in the 70s and 80s too for central Florida. Not just because of the rain, but because of the new approaching front coming in from north to south, if you know what I mean. But check out these lows heading into the 1st of October. This is the morning portion, that is, and it shows yet numbers dropping in the 50s and low 60s for the Mississippi Valley. And there could be some 60s for lows too for the northwest side of Florida, as you can see on the latest trend. So looking good there as far as the pattern goes. And it appears that we could see some low 70s, so a little bit of a cool start for not Alabama, for Orlando and westward to go towards the coastline of the Gulf Coast, that is. But if you go over here towards Interstate 95 between Jacksonville and down towards Miami, it shows just another warm start to the day, where it shows yet some 70s and lower 80s to remain, if that's right. And then this is on Thursday, October 2nd, and it appears the rain chances will start to drop even a little more. We'll say about 40% with moisture starting to build up from the central Gulf, and that could start to really increase the rain chances for the Gulf Coast sections of New Orleans, Biloxi, and in the Mobile areas. So that's something we could watch, but that can easily change by then as we get closer to the first few days of the new month. And looky there, we're talking temperatures, uh, mostly feeling more in the way of fall. We're talking anywhere from the 70s and into the low, if not mid 80s, if you're looking for that, heading into the second day of October. So if you're hoping to see some fall-like temperatures, well, I think you might be in luck. But as you know, we're still 1 week away, so that can always change. But we're hoping we'll see some much cool-like temperatures around that time. and then up here to the north, you got not low temperatures, high temperatures on the second, mostly just hovering in the 60s, 70s, and lower 80s range. Basically from New Orleans, stretching off towards the east around the Myrtle Beach and the Charleston areas. But if we do look at the low temperatures for the morning of the second, it shows yet a much cooler start, especially for Georgia, and off towards the east you go into South Carolina, where it shows anywhere from the low to mid 50s from Atlanta over towards Charleston and the Myrtle Beach areas. While the rest of the valley could see lows beginning off in the 60s and into the lower 70s, which includes places like Jackson, Biloxi, New Orleans, Montgomery, Birmingham, Pensacola, Panama City, you name it. And there could be also some upper 60s and low 70s to start off with, too, for Orange County and west. You go towards the west coast of the state, if that's right. And now this is the morning of the 3rd, which is the next Friday, and it shows yet another much cool start up north, where it shows anywhere from the 50s and 60s yet in around the northwest side of Florida and the Mississippi Valley region, and it shows yet some 60s and low 70s, a little bit of a cooler start there for central Florida as the front moves in a bit closer to where we live. Weather-wise, heading into not the first half, the second half of the 3rd, it shows maybe some coastal showers moving in from the Atlantic. Looks like there might be a little bit of a weather maker moving in from that direction, so we'll have to wait and see. But if that's right, that could produce some coastal shower activity from St. Johns County down south into the Keys region, we'll say at 40%. Looks like the west side of the state looks to stay mostly dry for now. And it looks like something wants to try to form over here, tropical-wise, towards the Gulf Coast sections of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama on the 3rd. So that's something we may have to keep an eye out for. But as you know, here we are in the land of voodoo country. This can well change as we get closer to that time frame, so I'll keep you guys posted. So far, nothing interesting to see here, as that system may move it towards inland. So I don't see any signs of like an eye wall, which is like a hurricane, but something tropical we could just watch in the coming days, perhaps within a week or so. But again, that will likely change by then. I guess it's just way awfully early to tell. And then this is Saturday, October 4th, and it shows some of those showers moving in from east to west into our inland communities around portions of central Florida. Yet for now, we're going to call for about a 40% coverage, with some of that activity from the tropical mischief staying yet just to the north and west of here. But this time moving a little east into the Alabama Gulf Coast region, and even for the northwest side of the Panhandle. So that's something, again, we'll still watch, but it's just too early to tell if that's going to happen. So again, like I've said multiple times, that can always change by around that time frame. And for temperatures here on the 4th, shows mostly just in the low to mid 80s, so looking good there. And looks like temperatures with that center of the system will start to drop numbers in the 50s and low 60s, including Pensacola, Panama City, and Destin. But up north you go towards the inland areas of the Mississippi Valley, it shows temperatures only getting up in the mid to upper 70s. So yeah. So yeah, it looks like the long range models wants to show some fall-like temperatures moving into our direction, heading into the final few days of September, and even as we head into the first few days of October. So we're hoping for the best, that maybe we'll see some fall-like weather moving into our direction, if you're looking for that. And here are the lows for the morning of the 4th, and it shows yet some 50s and low 60s yet again for the valley, but there could be some upper 40s over in the Atlanta area to start off that morning. It's a little chilly start there, but again, this is land of voodoo that we're currently in, so that can always change once we get closer to that time frame. But there could be also some 50s for lows for the Panhandle side of Florida also to start off the 4th, and that includes Panama City, Destin, and Pensacola too. But look at the lows for central Florida. It looks like we'll see yet just a slightly cool start. Still mild, but not quite as cool than it is up north, where it shows anywhere from the 60s and low 70s, we'll say, for the moment. All right, now this is Sunday, October 5th, and it shows the rain chances shifting a little north across the northern side of Florida. And that could also expand up here towards the coast of Savannah and Charleston. It looks like it wants to show some potential 2 formations or mischiefs rather, tropical wise, for not just the Gulf but also for the Atlantic region. So that's something we again could watch, but it's just way too early to know at this point if that's going to happen. That's why we call it Voodoo Land. And it looks like temperatures will start to warm things up a little bit, back to, we'll say, close to average in the middle to upper 80s to some of you, returning back in the low 90s as we head into the 5th, with the little bit of a warm trend also returning for the valley, where it shows anywhere from the upper 70s and low 80s from Interstate 10 up towards Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. But still, it will still feel like fall, but it'll start to, you know, kick things up, slightly as far as the temperature pattern goes. And yet, here's the warning of the 5th, and it shows yet another cool start up north where there could be some mid to upper 50s and low 60s for Interstate 10 between New Orleans to Pensacola, and up north you go into the valley. And yet, you get another cool start, but slightly in the 60s and low 70s for Central Florida. All right, and this is Monday, October 6th, and it shows the two potential mischiefs fading out for both the Gulf and the Atlantic. And this means that we could still see a little bit of moisture, mostly for the east side of the state, where it shows just about a 40% coverage of seeing some of those showers and those coastal thunderstorms, leaving the west side of Florida and the Mississippi Valley for now staying fairly quiet. And yet, looking not too shabby as it shows temperatures across the region, just mostly sitting in the 80s to some, like down here in southwest Florida, just hovering around or close to 90s. A little warm, a little bit of a warm trend there for Sarasota and Fort Myers and those surrounding locations in that direction. And yet, another cool start up north where there could be some 50s and 60s for the Mississippi Valley and for the northwest side of Florida. And not much change for us, but as it shows yet another slightly crisp fall-like start with some upper 60s and low 70s here in the market. But the rain chances will start to increase again as we head into Tuesday, October 7th, as moisture starts to increase yet from the Gulf and the Atlantic, and we're going to call for now just about a 50 to a 60% coverage of seeing some of that wet weather here for our region. Well, just for here in Florida, but for the valley, looks to stay still mostly dry, if that's right. And yet, it looks like temperatures remains the same, just mostly just hovering in the 70s and into the low, if not mid 80s. And it looks like temperatures may not be quite as cool for the valley heading into the morning of the 7th, as it shows this time beginning off in the upper 50s and into the low to, if not mid 60s, for Interstate 20 and south, with numbers starting to jump up a little bit in the low to mid 70s to start off with, too, in Central Florida. And then last but not least, this is on Wednesday, October 8th, and it shows yet the moisture continues to increase for yet along the Gulf, and that could start to yet fire up more rain chances for most of the state and up towards Interstate 95 from Savannah into the coastline of South Carolina, this time at about 70% or greater, with the Mississippi Valley still looking to stay fairly quiet for now. And with that, with the rain chances yet firing up to about an 80% coverage or so, that may end up knocking down temperatures once again, this time in the 60s and 70s for central and north Florida, all the way up into the coastline of South Carolina. And then you got temperatures up northwest, you go into the valley, just hovering in the 70s and into the lower 80s. So this may not be related to a cold front, so just understand that. And then if you go down here into southern Florida, it appears that temperatures may start to feel a little more like summer again, but average in the 80s and into the lower 90s. So there you have it. So what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and sign out of Facebook Live on this Monday evening, and I hope to have the next update right back here tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And as always, I'll continue to post more notes or updates on my blog and social media platforms 24/7. In the meantime, please continue to stay safe by taking care of yourselves and each other, and God bless.